Welcome back to the deep dive. I want to start today with a question that I think, if we are being completely honest, most of us have asked ourselves at 3 a.m. at least once.
Oh, the 3 a.m. thoughts. Those are usually the heavy ones.
Right. It is that feeling when you are just lying there and you look back at your dating history, you mentally line up all the ex-partners, almost relationships, all those situationships,
Mhm.
and you start to see a pattern. And, it is usually not a very flattering pattern.
It is the Groundhog Day of relationships.
Exactly. It is
Yeah.
that exact moment where you realize, wait a minute, why do I keep dating the exact same person, just with a different face? Or why does every single relationship I have just completely implode at exactly the 6-month mark?
It feels like you are haunted.
It really does. It feels like a curse. Like the universe has just singled you out and said, no, not you. Everyone else gets the partner. You get the cat and the pint of ice cream.
Yeah, it is a really universal frustration. And I think for a lot of people, it moves past just mere frustration into this deep feeling of being unlucky. Like, I am just fundamentally unlucky in love.
Right. But today, we are diving into a stack of source material that suggests something completely different. And honestly, I found it a little confronting.
It is very confronting.
Sure.
Because the entire premise of the research we are looking at today is that your relationship status actually has almost nothing to do with luck.
Which is a tough pill to swallow.
It is. It does not even have that much to do with the people you're actually meeting out in the world. The sources argue it has everything to do with what is programmed into your hard drive.
And just to clarify for everyone listening, when we say hard drive, we're obviously not talking about your laptop. We are talking about the subconscious mind.
Precisely. The core argument across all these materials is that we were all walking around running a script, a background software program.
Like an operating system.
Exactly like an operating system. And this script determines who we are attracted to, how we behave in relationships, and ultimately how those relationships end. And the real kicker here, you probably did not even write the script.
Yeah, that is the part that really got me. We're going to get into all the details of this, but the idea is that this internal script might have been written years, decades, maybe even generations before you ever went on your very first date.
It shifts the focus entirely. Instead of constantly looking out the window for the right person, the material suggests we really need to look in the mirror. Or rather, look under the hood of our own minds.
So let us really unpack this. We have a fascinating mix of sources today. We have got some deep psychology, we have got some ancestral trauma theory, and we have some very specific practical energy work techniques.
Things like Reiki and cord cutting, which we will definitely break down.
Right. But before we get into the more alternative stuff, and I know you're going to want to analyze the mechanics of that, I want to start with the central analogy that angered this whole discussion for me, the clean slate.
Yes, this is the absolute foundation. If you do not grasp this analogy, the rest of the techniques just are not going to make sense.
So paint the picture for us. How does the source describe it?
Okay, so the source material asks you to imagine a room. Let us say it is your living room. And you have this burning desire to bring in a brand new, beautiful, incredibly expensive velvet sofa.
Okay, I am picturing it.
This sofa represents the relationship you want, the great love, the secure, stable partner, the happy ending.
It is the thing you have been manifesting. You have got the vision board, you have done the daily affirmations, you have literally bought the sofa.
Right. The sofa is on the delivery truck. It is outside your house right now. But you open the door and look at your living room, and the room is currently absolutely packed, floor to ceiling, with old, broken, dusty furniture.
Just junk everywhere.
Complete hoarder situation. There are three-legged chairs, ripped ottomans, jagged metal springs sticking out of cushions, just a mess.
And these broken pieces represent what exactly? Past relationships?
Partially, yes. It represents every heartbreak, every disappointment, every fear you have collected over your lifetime. But, as we will see as we dive deeper, it also represents your parents' furniture, your grandmother's furniture.
Stuff you did not even buy.
Exactly. Stuff you did not buy, but it was inherited and just shoved into your room anyway.
So the delivery guys show up with this beautiful new love and the new velvet sofa, and they're standing at your front door.
And they simply cannot get in. There's physically no empty space. If you try to shove the brand new sofa on top of a giant pile of broken, jagged chairs, what happens?
It gets ruined.
It gets ripped, it gets dirty, it sits unevenly so you cannot even sit on it. Or, more likely, the delivery guys just leave it on the curb and drive away.
Man, that is such a powerful image because I think so many of us try to do exactly that in our lives. We try to layer a brand new healthy relationship right on top of our unresolved trauma.
We just want to skip the hard part.
Right, we try to just add the good stuff without actually doing the work of removing the bad stuff first.
Exactly. The core argument across our sources here is quite literal. You cannot manifest a new reality in a cluttered space. You have to clear the room first. You have to haul all that old junk out to the curb.
Make some space.
Only when the space is empty, when you genuinely have a clean slate, can the new furniture actually fit into your life.
And that is our roadmap for this deep dive today. We are going to figure out exactly how to clear that room. We are going to look at 3 main layers.
The excavation process.
Yes. First, we have to understand the mechanism of the subconscious mind. Like, how did the room get so incredibly messy in the first place? Second, we're going to look at that inherited furniture, the ancestral trauma. Why on earth are you living out your grandmother's love life?
And third,
Right. And finally, we are going to walk through the specific tools, the heavy lifting gear, so to speak, to actually clear the space.
it is a full renovation.
Yeah.
And it really has to start with understanding the recording device itself.
So let us jump into segment 1. The subconscious as the ultimate scriptwriter. Now, I think most people listening know they have a subconscious. We know there's a part of our brain running the background processes.
Sure, basic psychology.
But the source material defines the scope of this recording in a way that is, honestly, kind of terrifying to think about.
It is incredibly extensive. I think the common assumption out there is that our memory or our behavioral patterns start when we are toddlers. When we start talking and actually interacting with the world around us.
That is what I always assumed.
But the material here points to prenatal psychology. It explicitly states the subconscious begins recording not at birth, but from the actual moment of conception.
So literally while you are in the womb.
In the womb. Think about it mechanically. You are biologically developing inside another human being. You are sharing a blood supply, you are sharing hormones, you are sharing a nervous system environment.
Right, it is a shared ecosystem.
Exactly. So if your mother is anxious, if she is heartbroken, if she feels profoundly unsafe in her relationship with your father, that entire chemical cocktail crosses the placenta.
You were just marinating in it.
You are marinating in her emotional reality. And because you are a fetus, you have no language, no logic, no rational brain to filter it and say, oh, mom is just having a bad day.
Mm-hmm.
Your developing nervous system just records those chemical signals as absolute truth.
So if mom is scared of dad, the fetus records what?
It records a fundamental equation.
Yeah.
Intimacy equals danger. Closeness equals fear. And that becomes the very first file on your hard drive.
That is wild to think about, that before you have even taken your very first breath of air, you might already have a deep biological bias against trusting a partner.
It sets your absolute baseline. And then, of course, once you are born, the recording just keeps going. And the key thing to understand here, and the source stresses this repeatedly, is the operating schedule of this recorder. It records 24/7.
It literally never sleeps.
Never. You go to sleep. You go on a relaxing vacation.
Yep.
You completely zone out watching television. The conscious mind takes breaks all the time.
Mm.
But the subconscious is like a security camera with a little red light that simply never blinks. It captures everything.
And here is the part of the reading that I found really tricky to wrap my head around. It captures everything, but it is not exactly smart.
It is not smart in the way we traditionally think of human intelligence.
Mm.
It is not analytical at all. It does not have a sense of humor. It is incredibly painfully literal.
The text called it the literal mind.
Yes. The subconscious does not understand irony. It does not understand sarcasm. And crucially, it does not distinguish between reality and imagination.
Okay, I really need you to give me a concrete example of this, because I feel like I rely heavily on sarcasm just to survive modern dating.
Do not we all?
Yeah.
But here is the inherent danger the source points out. Let us say it is Friday night. You are out with your friends having some drinks. You have had a terrible week at work. You had a bad date. You are just venting.
Setting the scene, okay.
And you throw your hands up and say something dramatic like, "Ugh, men are completely trash."
Yeah.
Or, relationships are just a prison. I am honestly so much better off alone.
I've definitely said some variation of that. Many times.
We all have. Now, your conscious mind knows you are just venting. It knows you do not really mean you want to die alone on a mountain. You are just blowing off steam with friends.
Right. It is just talk.
But your subconscious is sitting down there with a clipboard and a pen. It hears you and writes down, command received. Relationships are a prison. Command, avoid prisons at all costs. command, stay alone.
It takes a sarcastic joke as a literal directive.
It takes it as a biological instruction for your survival. It then begins to subtly reorganize your perception and your behavior to ensure you comply with that command. It will actually start steering you away from potentially great partners because it genuinely thinks it is saving you from entering a prison.
Oh my God. So we are literally brainwashing our own minds with our casual complaints.
We are constantly programming ourselves.
Mhm.
And the source points out that this absolutely applies to our media consumption too. This is where it gets really interesting for anyone listening who loves a good, sad song.
Oh no, not the breakup playlist.
Yes, the breakup playlist, the tragic romantic movies. If you spend your evenings watching heavy dramas where the lovers are separated by war or disease or some awful tragedy, and you are sitting on your couch weeping, feeling that intense emotional pain,
Because it is a good movie.
because it is a great movie.
Yeah.
But your subconscious is recording that physical sensation of grief. It says, I'm taking notes. This is what love looks like. Love is tragic. Love is deeply painful. Love means inevitable separation.
So it creates a literal template for romance based on fiction.
It creates a foundational template. So then a few weeks later, you meet a nice person. They're emotionally available. They're kind. They're right there in front of you. And you feel absolutely nothing. No spark. No butterflies.
And you wonder why.
Right, and you wonder why. Well, the source argues it is because to your subconscious, safe and available does not match the dramatic template of love that you have programmed into it.
But then you meet the person who lives in another country or the person who is chronically emotionally unavailable or married and suddenly fireworks.
Exactly. Because the massive obstacle mimics the tragedy you've been watching on screen.
Yeah.
Your subconscious goes ding, ding, ding. This feels exactly like the movie. The pain is here. The distance is here. This must be true.
Wow. That explains so much about why we chase people who are objectively bad for us. We are not actually chasing the person, we are chasing the familiar pattern.
We are chasing the familiarity of the emotional signature. And this perfectly leads us to a concept the source calls the protection paradox.
I loved this specific term because usually when we talk about self-sabotage in relationships, we frame it as this dark, malicious thing. Like, why am I ruining my own life? I am my own worst enemy.
We judge ourselves harshly for it.
But the source says it is not malicious at all. It is actually trying to help us.
It is trying to save your life. The subconscious has one primary directive that overrides absolutely everything else, and that is survival, safety. It just wants to keep you breathing.
It does not care about my happiness.
It does not care if you are happy or fulfilled or self-actualized. It cares if you're alive. The major problem is that its working definition of safety is based entirely on those old, outdated recordings we just talked about.
So explain how being totally alone becomes classified as safety.
Let us bring in the ancestral angle for a second, which the source uses heavily. Let us say you had a great aunt back in the 1920s. She fell deeply, madly in love. But maybe she got pregnant out of wedlock.
Which is a massive deal back then.
A huge deal. In that era, that could mean total social exile. She was shamed by her community. Maybe she was kicked out of her family home entirely. Maybe she even died in childbirth alone.
Okay, so a genuine, horrific tragedy.
Right. To her conscious mind, it was a tragedy. But to the biological record, the DNA memory and epigenetic trauma that the source argues gets passed down the family line, the equation is stark and simple. Love equals danger. Love equals exile. Love equals death.
So fast forward a century to me. I am sitting here today totally secure saying, I really want a partner.
You're saying that consciously with your logical brain.
Yeah.
But your subconscious pulls up the ancestral file and screams, absolutely not. It remembers the great aunt. It says, the last time our bloodline really loved someone, we were exiled and we almost died. I'm going to make sure you stay single to keep you safe from that threat.
That is, I mean, it is tragic, but it's also kind of beautiful in a weird way. It is like having a really misguided, overly aggressive bodyguard.
That is the perfect analogy.
Yeah.
It is a bodyguard that is way too aggressive for the current situation. It tackles anyone who tries to give you a hug because it assumes they are carrying a concealed weapon.
What?
The source calls this the repelling magnet effect. You might be saying all the right things, you might be swiping on all the dating apps, you might be dressing up and going on dates. But your underlying energy, your micro-expressions, your body language, your subtle vibe is broadcasting a massive stay-away sign.
And other people out there, they pick up on that invisible sign.
Immediately. Humans are highly intuitive social animals. If your subconscious is blasting a do not enter signal, potential partners will literally walk right past your open door without even knowing why.
And that leads directly to the loop effect the author talks about. Because if the subconscious genuinely thinks safety equals no relationship, it will just keep looping you back to that baseline state over and over.
The subconscious craves patterns. It loves absolute predictability. It would frankly rather replay a misery it already knows because,
Yeah.
hey, you survived that misery yesterday, so you will likely survive it today than risk a happiness it does not recognize at all.
Because happiness is an unknown.
Happiness is an unknown variable. And to the primal survival-focused brain, unknown always equals risk. So it says, look, I know this path. I know the path where we get dumped after exactly 3 months. We survived that last year. Let us just do that again. It is safe.
I know this path, I survived this path, let us do it again. Hearing it framed like that is incredibly clarifying. It stops the whole shame spiral of asking, what is fundamentally wrong with me? And it turns it into, oh, my machine is just running an outdated software program.
Exactly. And once you finally realize it is just a mechanical machine running a script, you can stop taking your relationship failures so personally and start looking for the instruction manual to rewrite the code.
Which brings us perfectly to segment 2. We have talked about the recordings that we make in our own lifetimes, but we need to go much deeper into the recordings we did not make, the ancestral baggage.
This is where the material gets really profound.
The source material spends a massive amount of time on this idea of the loyalty contract.
Yes, this is a core concept drawn from family constellation theory. It is the idea that we do not just inherit physical traits. We do not just get our grandfather's eye color or the shape of our mother's nose or our height. We inherit their emotional templates. We inherit their unfinished emotional business.
But why? I mean, structurally, why would I inherit my grandmother's bad dating life? What is the biological purpose of that?
It all comes down to loyalty, and specifically, a child's primal need to belong to a family unit. Think of a family as an ancient survival tribe. For a small child, the most dangerous thing in the world is exclusion from the tribe.
Right, if you're a baby and you were kicked out of the cave, you die.
Exactly. So humans have an incredibly strong biological imperative to belong to their group.
Okay, that makes logical sense.
But here is the twisted, unconscious logic of the child's mind. We often try to gain and secure our belonging by sharing in the hidden burdens of the clan.
What do you mean by sharing the burdens?
If your mother was deeply miserable, if she suffered constantly in her relationships, and you go off and have a blissfully happy, easy, perfectly healthy relationship, on a deep, unconscious level, you might feel like you are betraying her.
Oh, wow. Like you are leaving her behind in her pain while you go have fun.
Exactly. By being happy when she was sad, you become other. You are no longer like her. So the loyalty contract is the unconscious child within you, essentially saying to the ancestor, I will suffer like you suffered, out of love. I will carry this heavy weight with you, so you are not alone in your pain.
That is incredibly heavy to think about.
It is profound, and it is completely unconscious. You are obviously not sitting there consciously thinking, I'm going to sabotage my date tonight to honor my sad mother. But your life trajectory reflects that hidden promise.
The source material actually gave some really specific, recognizable examples of these generational scripts. One that really stood out to me was what they called the freedom conflict.
Yes, the freedom conflict is a very common one in modern therapy. Imagine a mother or a grandmother who got married very young. Maybe in a time period or a culture where women had significantly fewer rights or options.
Right, maybe they could not easily get divorced or open a bank account.
Exactly. And because of that early marriage, she felt completely trapped. She could not work, she could not travel, she lost her personal agency, she felt suffocated by the domestic role she was forced into.
So she was deeply unhappy, but she physically could not leave the situation.
Right. And her child observes this dynamic growing up. The child absorbs the mother's suppressed, silent emotion. So for that child, the internal equation becomes marriage equals a prison, marriage equals a total loss of self.
So that child eventually grows up. They are an adult in the modern world. They might consciously say, I really want to get married and settle down.
But every single time they get close to actual commitment, every time a relationship starts to cross over into serious territory, they absolutely panic. They feel physically suffocated. They pick a fight, or they cheat, or they just run away. They sabotage it.
Because they think they are saving themselves.
Because deep down, their subconscious is screaming, run. If you sign that marriage paper, you lose your freedom forever. They are aggressively protecting their freedom, honoring that suppressed, unlived wish of their mother or grandmother.
Another specific script mentioned in the text was the betrayal script, or the Kuma dynamic.
Kuma. Yes.
Yeah.
This is a cultural term that refers to the dynamic of a second wife or a culturally accepted mistress.
Right.
This is incredibly common to find in lineages where there was rampant infidelity or maybe culturally sanctioned polygamous arrangements in the distant past, or just generally complex, painful family dynamics involving the other woman.
So how does a Kuma dynamic from 3 generations ago actually play out for someone dating today?
If your specific family lineage is full of women who are chronically betrayed or women who constantly had to compete for basic resources and affection with a second wife, the downloaded program you inherit is men inherently cannot be trusted. Or you will always have to share your partner. Or you will never be the true priority.
So you react to that program. You either completely avoid commitment to avoid the inevitable pain.
Or, and this is very common, you unconsciously only attract partners who already have someone else in their lives. You consistently attract married people. You attract partners who are clearly still in love with their exes.
You essentially cast yourself as the second wife.
You replay the Kuma dynamic perfectly because it is literally the only version of a relationship your nervous system recognizes as familiar. You are not actually reacting to your current partner at all. You're just reacting to your grandfather's behavior from 60 years ago.
That is just, wow. It completely reframes every bad date I have ever had. And there was one more really interesting layer to this ancestral connection mentioned in the material. Birth order.
The structural hierarchy of the family.
Yes. The source suggests we are actually connected to specific ancestors based on our rank in the family.
Yes. The source notes that there is often a strong fate connection based purely on numerical hierarchy. Often we share a much stronger energetic link with ancestors who share our exact birth order. So if you are the second-born child in your generation, you need to look very closely at your aunts and uncles or grandparents who were also the second-born child.
There is an energetic resonance there.
There's often a striking parallel in your fates. It is the same dynamic if you happen to carry someone's exact name.
Oh, the namesake thing. I have heard warnings about this before in different cultures.
It is very prevalent. If you are named after a beloved great-aunt who died in a tragic accident or a grandfather who went completely bankrupt and lost everything, the source suggests you have to be extremely careful. Names carry a tremendous amount of energy and expectation.
It is like wearing your name tag.
You have to consciously and actively separate your personal fate from theirs. Otherwise, the subconscious simply adopts their life script as your default setting. It says, oh, I am named Sarah. Okay, I guess I have to do whatever the original Sarah did.
It is the ultimate aha moment, is not it? Just sitting there realizing that your crippling fear of abandonment might not even belong to you. It might literally be Great Aunt Sarah's fear that you were just casually carrying around in your emotional backpack because you happen to have the same name tag.
And reaching that realization is the absolute first step to putting the heavy backpack down. You cannot release a burden if you do not even realize you are holding it. You just think it is the natural weight of your own body. But it is not.
Okay, so we have a very clear diagnosis now. The room is full of junk. Some of it is ours. A whole lot of it is inherited. Now let us shift gears and talk about the cure. How do we actually get the broken furniture out of the house?
The actionable part.
Right. The source material pivots quite heavily here to energy work, specifically Reiki.
It does. And I know for some listeners, the very word Reiki makes them immediately roll their eyes and tune out.
I will admit I was naturally skeptical too. The host in the source material we reviewed actually mentions having a strong math and science background, so she was initially very skeptical as well. But she describes Reiki as essentially a magic wand for clearing these deep, invisible blocks.
And this is where the text uses a really useful grounding analogy to try and bridge that gap between the hardcore skeptics and the believers. They use the analogy of electricity.
The light switch analogy.
Yes. The expert in the source argues, look, you do not have to deeply believe in the concept of electricity for the light to turn on when you flip the switch on the wall.
Right. You do not need a degree in electrical engineering.
You do not need to understand electron flow or wiring diagrams or grid infrastructure. You just need to interact with the mechanism. You flip the switch, the light goes on.
So the argument is that bioenergy, or Reiki, works exactly the same way mechanically.
Exactly. Whether you personally believe in esoteric concepts like chakras or auras or not, the argument presented is that these techniques operate on a mechanical frequency level. However, there is one crucial difference between flipping a physical light switch and doing energy work.
Permission.
Permission and willingness. You can force the light switch on anytime you want, but you absolutely cannot heal someone, against their fundamental will. You cannot clear a subconscious block if the person is secretly terrified of letting it go and is actively clinging to it. You have to consciously say, I am open to this process.
The source listed some really funny everyday applications for this energy work, too. It was not just all about healing deep, dark ancestral trauma. It was used for things like finding parking spots.
Yes, it really highlights the versatility of the tool, their worldview. Finding good parking spots, cleaning the heavy, tense energy out of a living room after a massive argument, even calming down a screaming baby. It is presented as a general utility tool, like a Swiss Army knife for dealing with unseen energy.
But there was one specific application mentioned that I think is going to grab absolutely everyone's attention listening right now, the bank balance.
Ah, yes, the love and money connection.
There was a massive, explicit correlation drawn in the text between your love life and your finances. The source claims, and I am quoting here, when you fix your relationship with love, you inherently fix your relationship with money.
This is one of those connections that seems really strange and unrelated at first glance.
Yeah.
Like, why on earth would my disastrous dating life affect my annual salary? But it makes total sense when you look at it strictly through the lens of worthiness and receiving.
Break that down for us. How are they connected?
Both romantic love and financial wealth are essentially forms of energy that flow toward you. They are both fundamentally about receiving abundance from the outside world.
Okay.
If you have a deep-seated subconscious belief that says, I am not enough, or I do not deserve to be happy, or good things never stay in my life, that block does not just selectively apply to romance. It applies to absolutely everything you try to receive.
It acts as a general filter for your whole life.
It is a universal filter. If you block the front door to your living room because it's full of junk, you are not just blocking the delivery of the new sofa, you are actively blocking the new television, the new rug, and a delivery of cold, hard cash. The source argues that the specific emotional frequency of unworthiness physically repels external resources.
So the root cause of being broke and being lonely is the same thing.
Exactly. You very rarely see someone with a truly flourishing, deeply happy, wildly secure love life who is completely destitute and struggling in every other single area of their life. Obviously, there are always exceptions, but generally speaking, the frequency of joy and internal security tends to naturally attract other resources.
So the source argues that by actively clearing these romantic relationship blocks, by cutting the cords with the past trauma, you inadvertently open the floodgates for financial abundance to come in too.
It is framed as a very compelling two-for-one deal. Heal your heart, heal your wallet.
I think a lot of listeners just sat up a little straighter in their cars. Wait, I can fix my terrible dating life and fix my bank account at the same time. Sign me up immediately.
It is a very powerful motivation to actually do the hard emotional work.
Okay, so let us really get into the how. We have established the theory, we know the stakes, now we need the actual practice. The source provides a very specific step-by-step protocol called cord cutting, or in the original language of the material, Begkesme.
And before we describe the physical ritual of it, we desperately need to clarify what this is not. Because the term cutting sounds incredibly aggressive to a lot of people.
It sounds like we are violently excommunicating our family members.
Right. It sounds like you're cutting people completely out of your life and never speaking to them again. But the source is very clear. Cord cutting does not mean breaking up with someone. It does not mean erasing your memories of them, like in a sci-fi movie. It simply means severing the negative emotional tether.
So you keep the love, you keep the valuable life lessons, but you cut the active trauma.
Exactly. Think of the energetic cord between two people as a dirty, rusted pipe pumping toxic sewage back and forth. You want to cut that specific pipe. If you do this exercise focusing on your mother, you are not disowning your mother. You are actively disowning her psychological baggage that you have been carrying for her.
Which probably makes the relationship better.
You are actually vastly improving the real-world relationship because you are no longer interacting with her through a thick filter of past pain and resentment.
And the scope of who you can do this with is huge. It is not just for toxic ex-partners.
No, not at all. The text explicitly lists parents, ancestors, old friends, and this is a really fascinating one, fictional narratives.
The soap operas we talked about earlier.
Exactly. You can literally cut cords with the tragic storylines of the movies or books you obsessed over. You could say to your subconscious, that tragic Titanic story, that's not my personal story. I am formally cutting the cord with the romanticized idea that love requires sinking a ship and dying in freezing water.
Okay, let us walk through the actual ritual, because the source described a very specific physical setup, and it involves a pillow.
Yes, a standard throw pillow.
Why a pillow? Why can I not just sit quietly, close my eyes, and think really hard about cutting the cord?
Because the subconscious is profoundly literal. We keep coming back to this core rule. It desperately needs props. It needs a physical, tangible representation of an abstract, invisible concept.
So thoughts alone are not enough.
If you just sit there and quietly think, I release this trauma, it is often way too airy-fairy for the primal, survival-based brain to latch onto. It does not register. But if you hold a physical pillow in your hands and you say out loud, this pillow is my grandmother's trauma, your brain goes, okay, got it. I am currently holding the heavy object called trauma. It makes it undeniably tangible.
It gives the brain a physical task to execute.
Exactly. So step 1 of the protocol, get a pillow. Step 2 is the script you speak. And the specific words really matter here. It is not about screaming in anger. It is not about crying and yelling, I hate you for what you did to me. It is purely about honor and respectful release.
What is the exact line they use?
You sit down, you close your eyes, you visualize the specific ancestor or the ex-partner in front of you, and you say, and I am paraphrasing the translation here, I honor your fate, I deeply respect what you went through, but I am not you. I leave your trauma with you.
I leave your trauma with you. Man, that is such a powerful, clean boundary. It is respectful, but it is incredibly firm.
It is. It is formally acknowledging the reality that you cannot go back in time and fix them. You cannot carry their pain for them to make their life easier. You are firmly handing the package back to its rightful owner.
And then comes the actual release part of the ritual.
Then you visualize a sharp knife or a pair of heavy scissors again, using very literal, aggressive imagery. And you visualize cutting the invisible tie right above your head. You actively cut the connection. And then the most important physical act. You drop the pillow onto the floor. You physically abandon the burden.
And the source was very specific about what you do next. You walk away and you do not look back at the pillow.
You absolutely do not look back. You stand up and leave the room entirely. You physically signal to your subconscious nervous system that transaction is completely finished. We have safely exited the building.
It sounds a little dramatic, sure, but I can totally see why it works mechanically. It is a defined ritual. Human beings rely on rituals to mark major transitions in life. Weddings, funerals, graduations. We need rituals to clearly mark the before and the after.
Absolutely. The physical ritual tells the stubborn subconscious, pay attention, things are structurally different now. But, and this is a massive, heavily emphasized warning in the text, you absolutely cannot stop the process there.
Right. The clean slate analogy again. You took the gross old sofa out to the curb. Now the room is totally empty.
And nature violently abhors a vacuum. This is basic physics. If you leave that mental space completely empty, if you create a sudden void where the trauma used to live, the subconscious will panic. It hates empty space. It will frantically try to fill it to feel safe again.
And it'll probably just fill it with more garbage.
It will usually just drag the exact same old sofa right back in from the curb, or it will rapidly find a new, equally broken sofa to put there because it vastly prefers a familiar broken sofa to an unpredictable empty room.
So we have to redecorate the room immediately.
Immediately. You cannot wait until tomorrow. Which brings us to segment 5, the white road visualization. This is the active reprogramming part of the deep dive. You have successfully stopped the old toxic signal. Now you have to start broadcasting a brand new one.
Walk us through this because the sensory details really mattered in the source text.
So right after you drop the pillow on the floor and walk out of the room, you go find a quiet place to sit down. You close your eyes again, and you imagine a bright, glowing, white road stretching out in front of you.
Why specifically a white road?
White traditionally symbolizes purity, new beginnings, total clarity. It is the ultimate blank canvas. It stimulates the concept of freshness and safety in the primal brain. As you start mentally walking down this bright road, you have to actively populate the world around it. You visualize incredibly lush green trees, bright, colorful, blooming flowers.
Using symbols of life and growth.
Exactly. You are communicating directly to your brain. This new path is alive, it is fertile, it is safe to be here. And at the very end of this long road, you arrive at a house. But not just any generic house. It has to be your dream house.
And the source was kind of funny here. It said you really need to customize the house. Do not just picture a boring generic cartoon square with a triangle roof.
Because granular detail creates believability for the brain. If you just imagine a generic, blurry house, your subconscious is not impressed at all. It knows you are faking it. But if you mentally imagine the specific rough texture of the velvet on the new sofa, or the very specific smell of vanilla and sandalwood candles burning, or the exact way the golden hour afternoon light hits the hardwood floorboards.
You are forcing the brain to react.
Yes, your brain physically fires the sensory neurons exactly as if you were actually standing in that room. You're effectively tricking the brain into logging a real lived experience.
So you walk up to this detailed house, you open the front door, and who is standing there waiting for you?
The ideal partner. Now, this part is crucial depending on your current situation. If you are already in a committed relationship and you are doing this work to heal the dynamic with your current spouse or partner, you vividly visualize your current partner standing there.
But not just them as they are on a Tuesday morning when they are grumpy.
Right. You visualize them in their absolute best, highest energetic state, completely stripped of all the mutual baggage you both just released. You visualize the pure version of them that is deeply loving, present, and totally safe.
And what if you are currently single and looking for someone entirely new?
If you are single, you visualize the intense feeling of the right person. The actual physical face might be blurry or obscured, and that is totally fine. You do not need to cast a specific Hollywood actor for the role.
You just need the vibe.
You focus entirely on the physical sensation of their presence. The warmth of the hug they give you, the faint smell of their cologne or perfume, the overwhelming internal feeling of knowing you are finally safe.
The source heavily emphasized what they called the safety signature.
Yes. You look directly at this figure in your mind, and you say out loud or in your head, I absolutely deserve to be loved. I know exactly what safe love feels like.
You are rewriting the dictionary.
You are essentially coding a brand new biological definition of safety. Remember, before you did this, your brain's definition of safety was loneliness and isolation. Now, you are actively teaching the overzealous bodyguard a new rule. You are saying, no, look around. This feeling right here, being held securely in this beautiful house on this bright white road, this is what true safety is. Stand down.
It is basically physical therapy for your deeply wounded emotions.
That is a brilliant way to put it.
Yeah.
You are mentally rehearsing the physical state of safety so that when you inevitably encounter a healthy person in real life, your nervous system does not completely freak out and run away.
I really love that concept, swapping the old cassette tapes out while the tape deck is still open. Okay, we have one more specific tool provided by the source material. This one is explicitly called Love Reiki, and it seemed a bit more active, less about passively clearing out the junk, and much more about aggressively attracting the good stuff.
Yes. This is the final magnetizing phase of the process. Once your internal space is completely clean, freshly painted, and furnished with a new velvet sofa, you actually have to send out the formal invitations to invite the guest inside.
This one involved a really specific drawing technique with a heart symbol, right?
Right. It is a very simple direct visualization or actual physical drawing exercise. You literally draw or vividly visualize a very large open heart shape. Inside the left side of that heart, you place your own first initial. And then on the right side, you place your partner's initial.
And again, if you are single and you do not know their initial yet,
You just put a generic second heart symbol or even a simple question mark, acting as a clear placeholder next to your initial.
you are saving them a seat at the table.
You are formally reserving the space. You are clearly broadcasting to the universe or your subconscious. This specific seat is currently taken and waiting for the right occupant.
And what is the specific intention or mantra that goes with drawing the heart?
As you look at the heart, the mantra you repeat is, I fully accept and allow this pure love energy into my life. The single most important word in that sentence is allow.
Because we usually block it.
Exactly. So many of us consciously cried out that we desperately want love, but we structurally do not allow it to enter because of those massive invisible ancestral shields we put up. This heart exercise is the deliberate act of finally lowering the heavy drawbridge across the moat.
The expert quoted in the source mentioned something really profound here about logic versus magic that I thought was just a fantastic way to close out the deeply technical side of things. She said essentially, look, you use the internet every single day, right?
Yes. She points out that we all use Wi-Fi constantly. We are beaming invisible magical data signals through thin air to instantly connect with people sitting on the exact opposite side of the planet.
And we take it completely for granted.
We completely take it for granted. And almost none of us genuinely understand the actual quantum physics of it. Most of us could not even accurately explain how a basic router works to a child. But we fundamentally trust that if we type a message and hit send, that invisible message will arrive perfectly intact.
And she argues we should treat this Reiki and energy work the exact same way.
Results fundamentally matter significantly more than your intellectual understanding of the underlying mechanics. If drawing a simple heart on a piece of paper and spending 10 minutes visualizing a bright white road makes you physically feel more confident, more open, and significantly less anxious on your next date, then the tool has worked flawlessly.
It changed your baseline.
It successfully changed your broadcasting frequency. And all the material agrees that when your internal frequency finally changes, your external reality has no choice but to follow suit.
So, what does this all practically mean for us at the end of the day? Let us zoom out a bit. We have covered a massive amount of conceptual ground today.
I think what it ultimately means is that we have so much more personal agency than we usually think we do. It is incredibly easy to just sit there and feel like a helpless victim of chronically bad dating luck. It is easy to feel like the entire romantic world is just rigged against you.
It is comforting to play the victim, honestly.
It is because it requires no effort. But this entire perspective radically shifts the locus of control right back into your lap. It confidently says you are not a helpless victim of a cruel fate. You are the sole architect of your own energetic frequency.
It moves the entire cultural conversation away from, I urgently need to go out and find the right person, and turns it into, I need to focus inward and become the right energy.
Exactly, because if you do the hard work to completely clean the room, the right beautiful furniture will easily fit through the door. If you stay stubbornly cluttered with generations of ancestral trauma and unexamined fear, even the absolute most perfect, loving, ideal partner in the world will not physically be able to get through your front door.
And I think the biggest, most vital takeaway from all the source material combined is the absolute importance of actually doing the physical work. It is not just about listening to this and intellectualizing it. You cannot just sit on the couch and idly think, yeah, I should probably let go of my grandmother's pain someday.
Thought without action is useless here.
You actually have to do something physical. You have to grab the pillow. You have to do the active visualization. The active participation is the key to unlocking the mechanism.
Because the subconscious mind speaks entirely in symbols, rituals, and literal actions. You have to fluently speak its native language if you ever want it to actually listen to your commands.
So I want to leave everyone with a final, really provocative thought to mull over. The source mentioned early on that the subconscious absolutely cannot tell the difference between a vividly remembered past event and a vividly imagined fantasy. We talked extensively about how that glitch can severely hurt us, like when we replay old traumatic breakups. But if you just flip that concept around...
If that core rule is biologically true, it implies you could theoretically use it to rewrite your entire romantic history from scratch.
Right. Could you consciously sit down tonight, close your eyes, and vividly, intensely imagine a detailed alternate past where you were always deeply supported, always profoundly loved, and always perfectly safe? Could you actually trick your own brain into suddenly possessing the bulletproof confidence of someone who has literally never had their heart broken?
It is a truly radical, staggering idea. Using the fundamental glitch of the subconscious, its complete inability to distinguish fact from well-crafted fiction, as a literal superpower.
Hacking the system.
Exactly. If you can painstakingly fabricate a sensory memory of immense relationship success, make it so vivid that your physical body completely believes it happened, you might just wake up tomorrow and start walking through the world acting exactly like a winner. And as we all know, the world usually treats perceived winners very, very differently.
It is taking fake it till you make it, but executing it on a deep cellular neural level.
That is exactly what it is. And it is entirely within your control.
Well, I do not know about you, but I definitely have some throw pillows in my living room that I need to go aggressively drop on the floor tonight.
I think we all have a few cords to cut after reading this material.
I really want to encourage everyone listening right now, just try the pillow release exercise tonight. It costs you absolutely nothing. It takes maybe 5 minutes of your time. But please, do it with genuine intention. See if you actually feel a physical weight lift off your shoulders. And if you do, let us know how it goes.
We would absolutely love to hear about your results.
That is it for this deep dive. Clear out your slate, cut those toxic ancestral cords, and we will hopefully see all of you walking down the white road. Thanks so much for listening.
Goodbye.